Good afternoon. Secretary of State Schultz and Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko will confer next month on the prospects of a summit between their leaders. Today, Soviet President Gorbachev received his first U.S. congressional delegation in the Kremlin. Good afternoon. I'm Bob Burton.
And I'm Jennifer Smith. The bodies of 6 American servicemen who died in Vietnam are being flown to Travis Air Force Base to be transferred to caskets for burial.
And it's being called the biggest California marijuana bust ever.
Those stories and a lot more coming up next on First News.
On April 22nd, Rainbow will introduce family recipes. And you'll learn why Grandma is throwing away her bread pans.
To create the perfect home, start with the windows. The windows more people come home to than any other. Andersen windows. Far more energy efficient than ordinary windows, with a life of easy openings and closings and a beauty that will endure for generations. Andersen windows and patio doors are built to last, like the homes they're built into.
Come home to quality. Come home to Andersen.
See Coloma Building Supply, Shingle Springs, San Joaquin Lumber Company, all locations, New Home Building Supply, Sacramento, and Cal Comfort, Modesto.
I'm the Coachman Dalmatian. My name is Pete, and millions of miles have passed beneath my feet. I've led a mighty army to the great outdoors.
I'll get folks together like you've never been together before.
It takes a coachman to make the trip, so follow Pete, leader to the great outdoors.
Now you can get this cuddly Pete free while supplies last by stopping in at these participating Coachman dealers for a test drive or demonstration.
You're watching KXTV Channel 10, Sacramento, Stockton. From the Sierra to the Pacific, live from California's capital, this is First News. Reported by Bob Burton and Jennifer Smith.
Good afternoon. Topping First News today, the prospects for a Superpower summit are looking better.
The State Department has announced that Secretary of State George Shultz and Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko will meet in Vienna, Austria next month, perhaps the first step in setting up a summit meeting. Jacqueline Adams has more.
On his mountaintop today, President Reagan cleared brush and rode his horses. In Santa Barbara, his national security advisor had a more taxing job. After weeks of speculation about a possible Reagan-Gorbachev get-together, Robert McFarland tried to draw the distinction between a summit and a meeting. A summit, McFarland said, results in a specific accomplishment. Agreements are signed. A meeting, in contrast, could be simply a personal encounter, a get-together when the leadership of countries changes.
The President has stressed that he would welcome a meeting with the General Secretary. He would also welcome a summit at the proper time and as the culmination of an extended dialogue which has produced tangible accomplishment.
McFarland described the differences in part to lower expectations for either, and in part to clear up what he himself labeled the murk surrounding the subject. McFarland said a meeting could be arranged quickly when and if the Soviets agree.
The President believes that the climate of the relationship is such as to justify a meeting now and for the foreseeable future, absent any dramatic change in Soviet attitudes.
On another subject, McFarland said the president now believes that Mexico supports his latest Nicaragua peace initiative, despite the fact that the Mexican government has issued a statement saying it doesn't. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, Santa Barbara.
A summit meeting was also discussed as House Speaker Tip O'Neill sat down with Soviet leader Gorbachev in Moscow today. At the 4-hour meeting, O'Neill presented the Soviet leader with a letter from President Reagan, reiterating his request for a summit. Gorbachev read the letter and said he hoped for a reply to concerns he had raised in the letter to Mr. Reagan. O'Neill and Gorbachev touched on a wide range of topics, including arms control and human rights, and the possibility of expanding trade and cultural contacts between the two superpowers.
And Jennifer, out over the Pacific at this hour, the remains of 6 American servicemen who died in Vietnam are on their way to Travis Air Force Base from Hawaii. The remains were turned over to the U.S. officials in Hanoi on March the 20th. They were sent to Honolulu for identification. 4 of the servicemen died in air crashes. The other 2 are said by the Vietnamese to have died in captivity. News 10's Rosie Gaitan is at Travis Air Force Base right now. Rosie, when do they expect the remains to arrive?
Well, the last word, Bob, is 4:30. They had originally told us 4 o'clock, and now apparently it's detained a little. We're here waiting, so are 6 hearse that came through from the Bay Area. The officers have been, or the servicemen have been identified as 4 officers that were shot over North Vietnam. The other 2, a soldier and a Marine, were apparently died in captivity at a POW camp in North Vietnam. Now, the service here is going to be a simple memorial service, and then the caskets will be taken on from here over to Oakland. And we're hoping that they will be here in time for us to show you that video live from Travis Air Force Base.
All right, Rosie, we'll be checking back with you. 4 U.S. arms dealers were indicted today on charges that they tried to illegally export more than $12 million in military equipment, including rifles, to Poland. They're also charged with sending night vision goggles to Argentina to help against the British in the Falklands War. 4 executives in the 3 firms were targets of indictments. The firms are HLB Security Electronics of Manhattan, New York, Global Research and Development Limited, and Texas Armament Advisors Incorporated. The U.S. attorney handling that case says it gives us a rare look inside the business of dealing illegal arms.
Well, Bob, weapons and drug charges against 6 Sacramentans have resulted in extremely high bail for the suspects. The bail totals $1.6 million. The bail was set during a Sacramento court hearing today. The suspects, including a husband, wife, and their 18-year-old son, allegedly manufactured methamphetamines and trafficked in automatic weapons. During last week's raid on their Wilton ranch, the decomposed body of a murder victim was also found. The prosecutor says the suspect, Janice Kinney, claims her husband, Edward, is the killer. Murder charges have not been filed, but the investigation into that continues. Well, authorities are calling it the biggest marijuana bust ever in Northern California. 6 people have been arrested following a raid on a fishing boat in San Francisco Bay last night. Our Jerome Gray has been following the story today. He joins us live now from the Stockton Bureau. Jerome, we're calling this the biggest bust in Northern California history. How much marijuana was involved?
Well, Jennifer, a total of 60,000 pounds of marijuana with an estimated street value of $120 million. Coast Guard workers spent much of this day removing the marijuana from that fishing boat. They expected to haul away as much as 5 truckloads of marijuana. It's all wrapped in aluminum foil. The boat left Bodega Bay 5 days ago. Authorities received word that the vessel may be involved in some type of illegal transport. For a while, the Coast Guard was in radio contact with the boat, and the people on board denied that there was anything on the boat.
Obviously, riding low in the water, we had reason to believe they did have some cargo on board. Probably didn't want us to know what it was, so we directed them in to the Pier 45 where the Coast Guard cutter Resolute was docked, took them alongside the Resolute. One of the other questions that we'd asked them was how many people on board. They said there was 5 people. When we got in and we found that there was 6.
Keene says the people that were arrested were very cooperative. They didn't put up a struggle or anything. Authorities did find 1 small gun on the boat.
Jerome, do they know where this pot came from?
Well, they expect to take a few days to analyze it and come up with a firm conclusion, but at this point they believe that it came out of Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. Well, still to come, if you haven't filed your income taxes yet, you're in good company. We'll explain that next. And we'll show you how to give the gift of life through song.
I've learned a lot about plants over the years, but Oxygen Plus plant food taught me something. Look, this philodendron got my regular plant food. This one got Oxygen Plus. 8 weeks ago, they looked identical. Amazing, huh? Oxygen Plus is a unique plant food with important nutrients plus oxygen, so I get leafier, greener plants even if I overwater. It's the first really effective plant food I've seen in years.
Oxygen Plus, the first plant food with oxygen.
Every now and then you'll come across a road like this. That's when more than ever you'll want a car like this. The Nissan 300ZX Turbo. You flick the adjustable suspension to firm and go for it. It's your road now. And the feeling, like the car, is awesome.
Major motion from Nissan.
300ZX makes the joy of driving as good as it gets. For a test drive, see your nearby Datsun dealers.
Lawn weeds seem to spring up overnight. Dandelions and other broadleaf weeds. The answer is Ortho Weed Begone Weed Killer. Now in this ready-to-use applicator. There's no mixing, and you can spot kill broadleaf lawn weeds, roots and all. No more digging. Just a beautiful lawn with less work.
Get Weed Be Gone, ready to use. Ortho works wonders.
Tom Bradley made history yesterday by being elected to a fourth term as Los Angeles mayor. Even with the victory fresh in hand, Bradley would not rule out a second run for governor in 1986. Bradley polled 67% of the Los Angeles vote yesterday, more than twice the vote total of his nearest rival, City Councilman John Ferraro. In Washington, administration officials say they've decided to focus on a budget compromise struck last week as the last chance President Reagan will have to cut the size of the federal government. Chief of Staff Donald Baker says the package is the most ambitious budget reduction plan in post-war history. The compromise agreement would cut nearly $297 billion from the budget over the next 3 years. But today, Budget Director David Stockman said the budget battle amounts to the unloading of baggage.
With dozens of programs and billions of discretionary expenditures that we can no longer afford, or face the risk of profound economic disorder and higher taxes.
Stockman said it will also take the legislative battle of the decade to get the compromise budget passed. Another sensitive money matter has raised some eyebrows in Philadelphia. However, the head of the Internal Revenue Service says IRS workers have not been running some of the tax returns through paper shredders because they were complaining of overwork. Commissioner Roscoe Eggers Jr. says most Americans will be getting their federal tax refunds on time. Eggers says the rumors about overworked employees shredding the returns is sheer and utter nonsense.